My sister smashed my $2,000 gender reveal cake directly into the tablecloth, laughing hysterically while her camera crew recorded it for TikTok. When my mother brushed off my tearful shock with the dismissive, "Relax, Niam, it's just content," I snatched my sister's phone to delete the clip. But scrubbing through the high-definition footage, my breath hitched as I saw what the wide-angle lens captured behind the gift table. And 10 seconds after I texted the video to my husband, he called me with 4 quiet words: "Don't let her leave." My name is Niam Barrett. To understand why a ruined gender reveal party exploded into a federal law enforcement intervention, you have to look into the bitter, manipulative history of the Barrett family in Seattle, Washington. For 6 long years, I had maintained complete intentional silence from my mother, Eleanor, and my younger sister, Sienna. That 6-year wall of silence was built on a devastating financial betrayal that had shattered my young adult life. When I was 24, my late paternal grandfather passed away, leaving behind a targeted $800,000 educational and housing trust fund designated specifically for my graduate studies and first home purchase. At the time, I was working toward my master's degree in forensic accounting at the University of Washington. But just weeks before the funds were scheduled to disperse, my mother informed me that the trust had completely evaporated due to poor market investments made by my grandfather's estate executor. Devastated and unable to prove otherwise at 24, I was forced to take on massive student loans, work graveyard shifts as a junior compliance auditor, and sacrifice my health to finish my degree. Meanwhile, my mother bought a luxury waterfront condo in Bellevue, and my sister, Sienna, suddenly had an endless supply of capital to launch her aspiring social media career, buying follower packages, high-end cameras, and designer clothes. When I tried to ask questions about the missing financial paperwork, Eleanor accused me of being a bitter, suspicious child who was sulking over money instead of grieving my grandfather. Fed up with the manipulation, gaslighting, and emotional cruelty, I packed my apartment, cut all communication channels, and walked away into complete silence. Over the next 6 years, I rebuilt my life from absolute scratch. I earned my certified fraud investigator credentials, climbing the corporate ladder to become the lead forensic investigator for one of the top commercial compliance firms in the Pacific Northwest. Along the way, I met and married Julian Vance, a brilliant cybersecurity director and co-founder of a high-tech asset protection firm in downtown Seattle. Together, Julian and I built a quiet, prosperous, and loving life grounded in mutual respect and absolute transparency. 3 months ago, after 2 years of emotional IVF treatments, we received the incredible news that we were expecting our first child. When word of my pregnancy reached my extended family, Eleanor began calling my office from unlisted numbers, crying crocodile tears, claiming that life was too short for estrangement, and begging for a chance to reconcile before her first grandchild was born. Julian, knowing how much I had grieved the loss of a supportive family, gently suggested we allow them a carefully supervised chance to attend our private gender reveal gathering at an exclusive private estate in Bellevue. It was a decision I would immediately regret. On a crisp Saturday afternoon, 20 of our closest friends, colleagues, and business partners gathered in the garden courtyard. We had hired a premier pastry chef who spent 3 days constructing a custom, handcrafted, 3-tier porcelain white cake filled with colored buttercream that would reveal our baby's gender upon the first cut. The afternoon started off tense. Sienna arrived with a hired videographer holding ring lights and wireless microphones, treating our private celebration like a studio set for her social media channels. She shoved past guests, barked orders at catering staff, and recorded loud, obnoxious commentary about how boring and stuffy our high-end venue was. Eleanor spent her time cornering Julian's wealthy corporate colleagues, dropping subtle hints about how her daughter's online brand was seeking corporate sponsorships. When the moment arrived for the cake cutting, Julian and I stood side by side behind the main display table, holding the silver cake knife. The guests gathered in a semicircle, holding their breath. Just as Julian placed his hand over mine and we pressed the blade into the frosted top tier, Sienna suddenly sprinted out from behind the decorative floral archway. Without a word of warning, Sienna shoved me violently to the side, driving her open palm straight into the center of the three-tier cake. She smashed the delicate pastry flat against the table, sending clouds of white icing, blue buttercream, and sugar decor flying across my silk dress, Julian's tailored suit, and the pristine linen tablecloth. Sienna's videographer captured every second in ultra-high definition as Sienna rubbed the blue icing across her face, screaming hysterically toward the camera. "Surprise! It's a boy! Go hit that follow button for more epic party pranks!" Gasps of utter horror echoed across the courtyard. My hands were shaking, covered in ruined cake batter. Tears of shock and humiliation stung my eyes, as 3 months of meticulous planning and emotional joy were reduced to a cheap internet joke. I turned to my mother, expecting her to reprimand her 22-year-old daughter for her appalling, malicious behavior. Instead, Eleanor stood nearby, holding a glass of vintage champagne, laughing hysterically into her hand. "Oh, relax, Neve," Eleanor snickered loudly, brushing off my tears with the flick of her wrist. "Don't be such a dramatic freeze frame. It's just content. Do you have any idea how many millions of views that clip is going to get on TikTok? You should be thanking your sister for making your boring party go viral." Sienna was cackling, snatching the phone from her videographer to review the raw footage. "Yes, that was flawless! The engagement on this is going to be insane!" A cold, dangerous calm washed over me. The years of buried trauma, the years of quiet compliance, and the memory of their endless disrespect crystallize into pure, razor-sharp focus. I didn't yell. I didn't cry out. I walked straight up to Sienna, grabbed her wrist with an iron grip, and ripped the unlocked iPhone right out of her manicured hands.
"Hey, give that back, you crazy bitch!" Sienna shrieked, lunging toward me. Julian immediately stepped between us, his tall frame blocking Sienna and Eleanor while keeping his hand gently on my shoulder. "Back up, both of you," Julian warned, his voice low and dangerous. I stepped back toward the gift table, opening Sienna's photo application to permanently delete the video file before she could upload it to her cloud server. But as I opened the high-definition 4K 60 FPS recording and scrubbed the timeline backward to find the beginning of the clip, something in the background caught my trained forensic eye. Because Sienna's videographer had been holding the phone on a wide-angle tripod mount behind the gift table 15 seconds before the cake smash, the camera had been running continuously in high resolution. In the far right corner of the frame, behind the decorative floral curtain where the outdoor gift table and coat racks were positioned, the video clearly recorded Eleanor and Sienna standing together. In the high-definition footage, Sienna was seen slipping her hand into Julian's hanging formal coat pocket. She pulled out a small, custom-engraved titanium physical security drive, a high-level hardware USB authentication key containing Julian's firm's master corporate encryption algorithms and high-security client escrow tokens. The video showed Sienna handing the sleek titanium USB drive directly to Eleanor, who quickly tucked it deep inside her designer handbag. But it wasn't just the physical theft captured on screen. Because the videographer was wearing a professional wireless lapel microphone that was active on the table, the high-gain audio track crystal clearly recorded Eleanor whispering to Sienna while sliding the USB into her purse. "Make sure you smash that cake right now, so everyone looks at the food. Once they're distracted by the mess, we leave. This encrypted drive has the raw offshore escrow keys. My buyer at the rival firm is paying $200,000 cash for this USB tonight, and it covers the remaining paper trail from Neve's grandfather's trust fund." My heart stopped beating. My blood turned to liquid ice. In a 15-second accidental background recording, my mother and sister had not only committed high-level corporate espionage against my husband, but they had explicitly confessed on digital tape to stealing my $800,000 inheritance 6 years ago. Without hesitating for a single second, I tapped the screen, wirelessly airdropped the raw, unedited 4K video file directly to Julian's phone, and saved a duplicate copy into my secure forensics cloud server. 10 seconds later, Julian's phone buzzed in his hand. He looked down at his screen, hit play, and watched the high-definition clip while reading the automated forensic transcript. His eyes narrowed into slits of pure, terrifying steel. He looked up from his screen, made eye contact with me across the lawn, and placed a brief 4-second phone call to our lead corporate security director stationed outside the venue. Julian held his phone to his ear, his voice dropping into a deadly, quiet murmur. "Don't let her leave." Before Eleanor or Sienna could react, 4 heavy oak courtyard gates swung shut, locked electronically from the main security console. 2 off-duty police officers, who had been hired as venue security guards, stepped into the courtyard, blocking every exit. "What is the meaning of this?" Eleanor demanded, her voice screeching in high-pitched indignation as she clutched her handbag tightly to her chest. "Julian, tell these security guards to open the gates right now. We are leaving."
Julian walked slowly across the garden lawn, his face an unreadable mask of absolute, authority-backed calm. "You aren't going anywhere, Eleanor." "This is illegal confinement," Sienna yelled, stomping her foot while pulling out her backup phone. "I'm going live on TikTok right now. I'm going to tell my 200,000 followers that Nia Barrett and her rich husband are holding us hostage." I stepped forward, holding my head high, looking my mother dead in her eyes. "Go ahead and stream it, Sienna. Make sure your followers get a front row seat to your arrest." Eleanor's face paled slightly. "What are you talking about, you ridiculous girl?" "Sienna's wide-angle lens has exceptional resolution, Mom," I said, my voice smooth, cold, and razor-sharp. "It caught a wonderful 4K clip of you taking Julian's corporate USB key out of his jacket behind the gift table. And the microphone picked up your little chat about selling his company's proprietary keys for $200,000 to cover the trust money you stole from me 6 years ago." Eleanor gasped, her hands flying to her mouth as every single drop of blood drained from her face. She looked at Sienna, whose eyes were wide with sheer, unadulterated terror. No, that's impossible," Sienna stammered, her voice shaking violently. I was just filming a prank." Within 7 minutes, 3 marked Bellevue Police Department cruisers pulled into the venue driveway, their blue and red lights flashing across the manicured estate hedges. 2 uniformed police officers walked into the courtyard, accompanied by a senior detective from the Financial Crimes Unit, whom Julian had contacted directly. Julian handed his tablet to the lead detective, playing the high-definition video file and pointing out the exact timestamp showing the theft, the physical transfer of the titanium USB drive, and the clear audio confession regarding the corporate espionage and historical trust fraud. The lead detective reviewed the evidence once, looked up at Eleanor, and gestured to his partner. "Eleanor Barrett, Sienna Barrett, you are under arrest for grand larceny, corporate espionage, theft of proprietary trade secrets, and conspiracy," the detective stated firmly, stepping forward with metallic handcuffs. "Get your hands off me!" Eleanor shrieked, flailing wildly as the officer pulled her arms behind her back, snapping the cold steel cuffs onto her wrists. "Niam, tell them to stop. I'm your mother. You can't do this to your own family over a stupid video." "You stopped being my mother 6 years ago when you stole my future, Eleanor," I replied quietly, looking down at her without a single trace of pity. "And today, you tried to destroy my husband's livelihood. You are going to face every single consequence you earned." Sienna burst into hysterical, uncontrollable sobbing as the second officer handcuffed her, her manicured nails digging into her palms.
Mom, do something. I can't go to jail. My career will be over. The police officers escorted both of them out of the courtyard in front of our 20 high-profile guests, who watched in stunned, disgusted silence. As the police cruisers pulled away into the afternoon street, the noise vanished, leaving the estate in absolute beautiful peace. The legal hammer fell with devastating, methodical force. Armed with the explicit audio recording and video confession, my legal team and forensic accountants filed an emergency lawsuit against Eleanor and Sienna. We subpoenaed 11 years of my mother's personal and offshore bank records, uncovering the exact paper trail proving that 6 years ago, Eleanor had illegally forged my signature, liquidated my grandfather's $800,000 trust fund, and funneled the cash into her Bellevue condo purchase and Sienna's social media LLC.
Facing overwhelming digital evidence, corporate espionage charges, and grand theft counts, Eleanor entered a formal plea agreement with the King County Prosecutor's Office. To avoid a 10-year state prison sentence, Eleanor was forced to execute an immediate emergency liquidation of her luxury Bellevue waterfront condo, her investment portfolios, and her personal assets to pay full financial restitution of $800,000 plus 6 years of accumulated interest directly to my bank account. She was sentenced to 3 years in state prison and ordered to pay heavy municipal fines. Sienna was convicted of felony corporate theft and criminal property destruction. Her social media accounts were permanently banned under platform terms of service regarding illegal activities, her corporate brand partnerships vanished overnight, and she was sentenced to 18 months in a correctional facility, along with 2,000 hours of mandatory community service. Meanwhile, Julian and I restored our peace, far away from the toxic shadow of my former family. We used a portion of the recovered trust restitution to fund a state-of-the-art nursery and host a private, intimate celebration where we cut a new, quiet cake, surrounded only by people who truly loved and respected us. 2 months later, I gave birth to a healthy, beautiful baby boy named Arthur, after the grandfather whose legacy I had finally honored and restored. I established the Niam Barrett Forensic Integrity Trust, a $5 million endowment that provides full law school scholarships, financial literacy education, and legal representation for young adults facing financial exploitation, trust theft, and familial abuse. Sitting in the nursery of our Seattle home, holding my newborn son in my arms while the gentle rain taps against the window pane, feeling Julian's warm hand resting on my shoulder, I know with absolute certainty that family isn't defined by blood. It is defined by integrity, loyalty, and the courage to hold toxic people accountable no matter how long it takes. Educational lesson. This story highlights a crucial principle regarding forensic documentation, digital evidence preservation, and the hidden vulnerability of narcissistic exploiters. Toxic family members often operate under the delusion that familial bonds grant them immunity from legal accountability. However, in the modern digital age, high-resolution recording devices and forensic accounting paper trails provide objective, undeniable proof that dismantles years of gaslighting and fraud in seconds. When dealing with individuals who weaponize public spectacles or social media for personal gain, remaining calm and securing unedited digital evidence is the most powerful tool you have to protect your assets and enforce legal justice. Personal advice. If you are recovering from historical family financial abuse or facing toxic relatives who disrespect your personal boundaries for attention or profit, do not engage in emotional confrontations. Maintain strict documentation, protect your physical and digital assets with high-level security measures, and let toxic individuals expose themselves through their own arrogance. When undeniable evidence of wrongdoing comes to light, do not allow manipulated guilt or blood ties to sway you into silence. Enforce your legal rights with unyielding precision. Reclaim your stolen security and build a sanctuary of peace for the family you choose.